Okay, sorry about that. Welcome again. These are the beautiful covers of the Impact Social Studies program. You'll see kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth grade here on my screen. Hopefully you recognize these resources and perhaps you have those in front of you. If you do, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and grab your resources. We're going to be talking about all the materials that you have. We'll go online and look at the digital materials as well. Impact Social Studies is a 100% digital program, which means that you have access to print materials as well as digital materials available to you on any device, whether you have a desktop, a laptop, a Kindle Fire, a Chromebook, even a phone, you can access the resources digitally. Now, if you don't have an account, I'm going to share a demo code with you. Go ahead and screenshot this or print the screen or snap a picture with your phone. This is how you'll access the online resources if you don't yet have your own account. So I'll give you just a second to do that. And we could send this to you guys as well. But you're going to go to the my.mheducation.com. You have a username and a password. You will have your own account personalized for your schools. But if you don't have that, you're welcome to use this account in the meantime. So I'll give you a second to grab that. We're going to share this a couple different times over our time together. And I'm sure Laura will share this as well.
Yes, I will put it inside our chat.
Okay. So this is our very loose agenda. We're going to go lots of different directions, but basically today we're going to do a brief overview of the Impact program, talk about the materials, the pathway of instruction. We're going to get you all ready to teach the Impact Social Studies program, what it looks like at a chapter level, the lesson level, and then we'll spend the last few minutes of our time looking at the digital navigation. So as we think about the impact overview, what does this program look like in terms of each grade level? These are the big ideas or the themes that you'll see at each grade level, beginning with kindergarten, learning and working together, working all the way through to fifth grade, focused on history, and you'll see these, excuse me, these content areas at each grade level. Now, Impact Social Studies is built on the idea of the inquiry arc, and perhaps this is something you've seen before. This is comprised of 4 simple dimensions, and it takes a student-centered approach to walk students through that process. Dimension 1 is where students develop questions. Dimension 2, they're applying tools and concepts, graphic organizers, learning to research. Dimension 3, they're evaluating sources, primary and secondary sources. And finally, Dimension 4 is where students are communicating. They're taking informed action. They're coming to conclusions. And so what you'll find in this program is that we've developed our lessons based on these same dimensions. You'll see that students will engage, they'll investigate, and they'll also have time to report and take action. So our program was based on the idea of this inquiry arc, but what you'll also find is the resources match these same steps of the lesson. Resources are designed for inquiry, they're designed for analysis. You'll see that at the engage part of the lesson, we'll use a particular resource, moving into investigate, and then moving into report. So we're going to focus on all 3 of these areas. We'll talk through these materials and what's going to be happening at each step as we move through the lessons. So I'm going to pause for a second. Laura, are there any questions for me?
Sorry, my mic was off. No questions at the moment.
Okay. All right. So these are the 3 pieces of materials that you're going to find for your students. These are the student components. And the first on the left side of my screen is your inquiry journal. This is a write-in text, a consumable resource. The pages tear out, they're perforated. Students can write in the text. This is the primary tool. It's also available interactively online. This is where students ask questions, analyze sources. The resource in the center of the screen is called the Research Companion. This is a hardback book that actually supports students with primary and secondary sources. It teaches through literature, multi-genre resources. It includes multiple perspectives. This is a hardback resource that students will use in the classroom. And then finally, there's a resource called the Explorer magazine. This is an opportunity to dig deeper into the content. You'll see different genres, independent reading, small groups, and it's also connected to the chapter information. So the student key resources are those three pieces of print. Sorry, guys. The Inquiry Journal, the Research Companion, the Explorer magazine, but students will have digital access to all of these materials as well. And so in just a bit, we'll log in and take a look at that. But in terms of your teacher materials, you have one teacher's edition. Compact, comprehensive resource there, as you see on the left side of the screen, but also teachers have a digital platform. This is where all of your planning can take place. You can print, of course, and make plans for your lessons, but the teacher's edition is where it actually supports the Inquiry Journal, the Research Companion. You'll find lesson plans, teacher guidance, differentiation, as well as guidance for you as you're moving students through the program. So as we look in the teacher's edition, and if you have a teacher's edition, go ahead and open up if you'd like, or you can look at my screen and notice on the chapter overview, we give teacher guidance in terms of how the chapter is going to lay out. It shows those chapters' objectives, explain, identify, create, and it gives opportunities for teachers to know exactly what students will be doing. Notice those cross-curricular connections, how to connect this program to science, some additional bibliography in terms of stories and pieces that we can read, connecting to math, and also the opportunity to see which resources we'll be using at each phase of the lesson. So the teacher guidance throughout the program, throughout the teacher's edition. And as we begin to look at the teacher's edition, you'll notice that it calls out exactly what your students will be using. In this case, the Inquiry Journal. You'll also see that it calls out the exact page that students will be looking at in that resource. So there's teacher guidance, there's opportunity to see exactly where your students will be. And this is going to be laid out at the chapter and the lesson level. Now, in Impact Social Studies, we have adaptable and adjustable time frames. Depending on how much time you have in your classroom, perhaps you have 45 minutes, maybe you have 30 minutes, maybe some of you have 15 minutes. So depending on how much time you have, there is a flexible pacing option for you. Now, Impact Social Studies also offers some pacing pathways. As you look here on my screen, K2, we have a suggested time frame of 2 20-minute sessions per week. 3 and 4, 3 30-minute sessions per week, and grade 5 as well, 3 30-minute sessions per week. Now, the authors of our program have created something called the Flexible Pacing Pathways, and this is available to you online. I'm going to show you exactly where this is, but this gives you an opportunity to see the chapter and the lesson, and it breaks down each day of instruction. It shows you exactly how much time you might need for that resource. It also shows where to locate the resources within the student materials, where to find it online, and also where you'll find it in your teacher's edition. So we're going to actually jump to the online materials. I'm just going to pop in there really briefly because I want to show you how easy it is for you to find your materials, and then we'll come right back and continue the instructional training. So as you see here on my screen, Laura, are you able to see the dashboard here?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So this is the dashboard for third grade. Each grade level has the exact same dashboard. This is exactly how it looks for you as teachers. But I want to show you right in the center of the screen, you have those materials. Here's your Inquiry Journal. Here's your Research Companion. Here's the Explorer magazine. You have a teacher's edition, and all of these are ebooks. They're available for you to open right up, to use digitally. They'll look just like they do in print. And so you find your materials available for you right up front in your dashboard. So we're going to move ahead. I'm going to keep coming back to the online access. I'm going to show you some other things, but I just wanted you to see where those materials are located. They're right in the center of your dashboard, and that makes it easy for you to find when you'd like to use those materials. Any questions, Laura?
None so far.
Okay. So this is how you'll log in again to our online materials. I wanted to go ahead and give this to you guys again. This is the login, the username and password if you're just joining us, or if perhaps you weren't able to take a picture earlier. This is how you'll log in to get to those materials. So feel free to snap a quick picture of this if you'd like, or of course, we're going to send this back to you a bit later.
I've already
So,
had chat as well.
I'm
So
sorry,
it's also inside our chat.
in the chat. Okay, sounds good. So, as we think about the design, the structure of the program, how is this put together? How will you use this in your classroom? The structure of the chapter begins with a chapter opener. It moves into lessons and moves into a chapter close. So, as we think about the chapter opener, if you have a book in front of you or you'd like to follow along that way, I'm going to also show you some screenshots. But the first thing that happens in the chapter is we introduce the essential question. We introduce a project and we actually explore vocabulary. So this is an example from a chapter, and this is in the third grade level. Why do governments and citizens need each other? So this is the essential question. This is where we're focused on with our content, with our conversation, and everything that your students are going to be doing in that chapter is going to lead them back to this question. And we give your students a chance to talk about it. We want them to collaborate, to meet with each other, to focus on what they're learning and have conversation. And the first thing we do is introduce your students to an inquiry project. In this case, they're creating a classroom constitution. We want them to think about what would it look like if we were trying to create some rules and some boundaries for our classroom. We give them a project checklist, we give them a plan for that, and they'll be working on this as they work through that chapter. Each chapter also opens with a video. I'm not sure if you all can hear that. I apologize. Let's see.
No, there's no sound.
Okay. So the video is actually available to you online. You can push that out to students. You can assign that to them. But the goal of the video is to get students engaged and thinking and talking about that essential question. And you'll see one of these available for you at each chapter. Now, we also at the chapter level move into vocabulary. Vocabulary is listed up front for convenience, but it's not expected that students are going to memorize or know all of these words prior to the lessons. We want you to come back and revisit the vocabulary and pull that into the content, but it gives our students a chance to see those words that are going to be in the chapter and locate those in terms of where they're going to show up in the readings, in the writings, and a place for students to really get to know those words in context. So as we think about the chapter resources, we're going to jump online. I want to show you again where to locate those chapter materials. Laura, are there any questions for me?
None so far.
Okay. So this is the dashboard that we just looked at a minute ago. We saw the materials, and I want you to note that there is a tab that says Browse this course. That's your table of contents. As you click Browse this course, it brings you to all of the chapters that you have in Impact Social Studies. So you can choose any chapter. Let me blow this up just a little bit. And so if we look at this first chapter in third grade that says communities, we can click into that chapter and it allows us to get to all of the resources, all of the materials for the chapter level. So here on my screen, you'll see that at the chapter level, we have a presentation, we have the engage, investigate, take action, we have the chapter assessment. And so as you open each one of these blades, it actually brings you to the materials that you'll be using within the chapter. Whether it's the student journal, it could be an engage video, it might be the inquiry project. So everything needed for the chapter is going to be listed under the chapter file or blade. And so as you see that there on the screen, here's your research companion. Here's an opportunity to watch and investigate video. So as you log into your Access Online, let me back up just a second to show you that again. The tab that says Browse this course is your Table of Contents tab. And so as you click that, you will choose the chapter. Once you choose a chapter, you'll go right into those materials, and that's where you'll locate everything that you could potentially share on your screen or print off for students. And again, this is a place for you to begin planning your chapter instruction. Any questions about the chapter level resources before we move into the lesson?
No.
Okay. So as we come from the chapter level, the next step is to move into our lessons. We've introduced students to an essential question. We've talked about a big idea. We've explored vocabulary. Now it's time to dig in a little bit and analyze the source, use some inquiry tools, graphic organizers, some charts, some graphs, and actually report out about what students see. Now, as I mentioned a second ago, there is an inquiry path. This is focused on the idea of those dimensions of inquiry for students. We're going to have students engage, we're going to have students investigate, and then they will report and take action. So here on my screen is some information about each step. Let me put each of these up for you. At the engage level, we're going to introduce the essential question. Students will be introduced to their project. They'll plan their investigation. At the investigate stage, students are going to analyze primary and secondary sources, and they'll begin to collect evidence and information. And finally, in part 3, students are going to make findings. They're going to make connections. They're going to report out what they've learned. And so you'll see this in each and every lesson. They have the opportunity for these 3 steps of engagement. Now, each of the steps of our program include a particular resource. At the engage level, they'll see that inquiry journal. At the investigate level, they'll see the research companion as well as the Explore magazine. And finally, at the report level, they're coming back to that inquiry journal. Now, the lessons are designed roughly to be used 1 lesson per week, but as I mentioned before, there are flexible pathways. There are certain minutes assigned to certain things, and depending on how much time you have, you might use some different resources, additional pieces online, but it all begins at the engage phase with that inquiry journal. So if you have student materials, if you want to grab the inquiry journal with me, or you can just follow along, the inquiry journal is that, excuse me, consumable resource that students have in their hands. They're able to tear pages out. They could be writing in this resource. It's also available to them online. But as you look at the lesson level, as you see here on my screen, the first thing you'll notice is those objectives. Students begin exploring with the lesson objectives. What am I learning? Why am I learning this? And how will I know that I've learned this? So as we begin the lesson, we give our students a chance to understand and learn about those objectives, but we also give them a chance to talk about the primary source. So you'll notice here on the screen this picture, and the talk about it opportunity says, look closely at the picture. What do you think this room is used for? What clues in the picture help you know this? So the primary source, that analysis that students are doing of source, they're provided with images, primary and secondary sources. They're learning to analyze and really focus on that close analysis. Now, as we continue in that engage phase, the next thing that happens is students have evidence-based reasoning. They're using the resources and the skills that they learn in their ELA instruction to inspect, to analyze that source by finding evidence, to make connections to things that they're reading about. So this is done in that inquiry journal. You'll find inquiry tools, including charts and graphs, Venn diagrams. Your students will be provided with techniques and strategies on how to conduct their own research. You'll find mini lessons to help students develop these skills, and all of this is available to them in their student resource, in that inquiry inquiry journal. Now, once we continue through the engage phase, we introduce students to the investigate phase. This is a page you'll find in the Students Edition as well. But in the investigate phase, we're actually teaching students to read more closely, to move into an additional resource, and that's found in our Research Companion. So if you have your materials with you, this is that hardback book. It has red trim at the top. You'll know that your Research Companion is available to you in hardback. And so as we move into this next phase, we're going to focus on reading and research. So let me pause. Laura, any questions about the engage phase?
No, no questions.
Okay. All right. So in the hardback book, we're actually going to be investigating. And as we move into that part of the lesson, you'll see that we provide mini lessons. This gives students an opportunity to practice inquiry skills, focusing specifically on reading and research. And again, this hardcover text has the same essential question that students have seen already, but you'll notice there are 2-page spreads with chunks of information, allowing students to read, to collaborate, but we also ask students to stop and check. So they see 2 pages of mini lesson, embedded formative assessment. These are student facing. Students find these in their materials. They'll stop and check, chunking that information. And these are manageable lessons. It provides students a chance to talk about it, to talk with classmates, and to share what they already know about the content. Now, in this resource as well, you'll find people you should know. This is where we actually introduce students to people from the past or even from currently who have things to do with that content and people that perhaps are going to be important for that content. They can consider multiple perspectives, learning perspectives of others. Also within the investigate phase, this is where students can investigate through literature. You'll see authentic literature, you'll see map skills, primary and secondary sources, and also timelines. So the Research Companion provides those mini lessons, the short chunks of information, and also an opportunity to stop and check and collaborate with classmates. So again, the investigate phase has that Research Companion, but also, if you choose, students can use the Explore magazine. So in the investigate phase, you have some choices. You can choose that Research Companion, and also you can choose to use the Explore magazine. Now, the Explore magazine is a smaller resource. It's available for students. It's also, of course, online. But the really wonderful thing is that it actually connects students to the same essential question. In this case, why do governments and citizens need each other? You'll see that there are all sorts of genre in this resource. We have graphic novels, biographies, citizenship, map studies, songs, literature, all sorts of ways for students to learn a little bit more about the social studies content. As you see on my screen, map studies, songs. I mentioned graphic novels, which are really more of like a comic strip there on the left, biographies, fiction and nonfiction, infographics. So all sorts of ways for students to learn just a little bit more about that content using a different piece of resource. Now, this is available to students in print. It's also available to them online. And you'll find also a teaching guide. There is an Explore magazine teaching guide which provides a lesson plan for each of these reading pieces, including scaffolding for our English language learners and also differentiation for our approaching level learners. So the Explore magazine is found and used in that opportunity for engagement to adapt, engage, and extend the instruction. Now in the Teacher's Edition, you'll find opportunities and call outs to when you might choose to use that Impact Explorer magazine. And finally, the third phase of your lesson is to report and take action. So let me pause. Laura, any questions about the investigate?
No, we don't. We don't have any questions.
Okay, all good?
All good.
All right. So the third phase of the lesson is where students come back to that inquiry journal and they're going to report, take action. And you'll notice in the Students Edition, students are going to think about it, write about it, talk about it, even read about it, but they're connecting all that they're doing back to that essential question. We have opportunities for students to think about and work on that inquiry project, maybe to work in groups or individually, and you even have access to this online. Now, also at the end of the lesson, there is an assessment. You'll see these available to you in print, as you see there on my screen, and they're also available to you digitally. So you can assign the assessments to students. You can push those out to their dashboard. Students can also, of course, receive that assessment in print. Now, I'll show you in just a bit. We can go online and actually modify, edit those assessments, make changes as you wish to what's there. But if you choose to use them, each lesson actually has an assessment. Now, finally, at the end of the chapter, we have a chapter close. And this is where we complete the project. We take action. We focus on additional other activities, and you'll find that that's where we pull in the opportunity to share that inquiry project. Now, in this case, as I introduced you to a minute ago, we're creating a classroom constitution. Now, there are all sorts of fun projects. These are available at the end of every single chapter. Here's some examples. You'll notice on the left side of my screen, in this classroom, they're creating a new country. They're designing a flag and rules for the country. In the center of the screen, trading cards of European explorers, and finally, that classroom constitution that I mentioned there on the right. So each chapter, each grade level has an inquiry project designed for you to use over the scaffolding of the instruction and giving students a chance to collaborate and work together and really focus on the content that they've learned in that chapter. Also in each chapter, you'll find something called foldables. These are kinesthetic note takers designed for students to create folding pieces, flip books, all sorts of ways to actually hang on to information that they're learning within those chapters. And if you're interested, we have something called Reader's Theater. This is where students can act out activities and stories from the content, and you'll find these available in each chapter as well. Impact Social Studies includes something called Impact News. This is a place for students to read current events and also write about those current events. This is updated monthly. There are teaching tools and response pages. So if you're interested in using current events, you'll find these online at our Impact News tab, and I'll show you exactly where that is in just a bit. So we're going to go online now and take a look at the lesson resources. Laura, any questions for me?
No, not at the moment.
Right? So as we come back to the dashboard, as you see here on my screen, on the left side of the screen, there is no home button on the dashboard. But what you'll notice is there is a dashboard button. And when you choose that button, it brings you to the dashboard, showing you all the resources and the materials there. And again, that browse this course is that table of contents. And once you choose that, remember it brings you to the table of contents. I've chosen a chapter. But notice underneath the chapter, there are lessons. Now, as I choose a lesson, everything repopulates. It sets the stage for me again as well. And you'll notice that this is where all my lesson materials are found. At the chapter level, I see chapter materials. At the lesson level, I see the engage, investigate, report, assessment. And as I look into each of these files or these blades, I'll actually see access to the lesson planning. As you scroll down, you'll see presentation slides that you can add for your students to see. Continuing to scroll, you'll see the lesson video. You'll see the inquiry journal. Talk about it, analyze the source, the research companion. So again, I encourage you to go online and take a look at that table of contents, look at the chapter materials, as well as the lesson level materials. So if you have an opportunity to log in, I would encourage you to go ahead and do that. Let me scroll back up to the top. And you'll see all of the resources for each lesson found at the lesson level. So if you have an opportunity to log on, you'll look at the chapter level and you'll also look at the lesson level. As we continue talking about the resources, there are a variety of assessments and a variety of formats that you can use. At the beginning of each chapter, you'll see a page that looks like this, found in your teacher's edition, and you'll notice there is a pretest, there is an ongoing lesson assessment, and there is a chapter assessment. So the pretest is optional. These are verbal questions that you can ask to students and ways to engage and encourage students to talk about what they know. The lesson assessments happen after each lesson. And then finally, there is an opportunity to use our chapter assessments. Those come at the end of the chapter. So throughout the program, there are additional ways to check in with students. Here are some additional assessment pathways. There is a pretest if you choose to use that in grades 2 through 5. We have stop and checks, checking for success, reporting your findings. And finally, as I mentioned, there's a lesson assessment, a chapter assessment, and then that inquiry project. So lots of different opportunities there for assessment. During instruction, you'll also see some additional formative opportunities. We mentioned the think about it, the write about it, those stop and checks that happen in the mini lessons in the Research Companion. And then, of course, the lesson test available to you in print or digital. So there are lesson assessments, there are chapter assessments, and there are ongoing opportunities to ask questions and check in with students as you're going through the resources. Now, I mentioned that we have print and digital opportunities. These have been pre-built for you. Notice on the right side of my screen, this is an example of what it might look like for a digital assessment. You can assign these to students. You can print them off. You can modify, edit, make all the changes that you'd like to those assessments. And these are available for you at the lesson level and at the chapter level. Now, if you choose to take a look at the assessments and edit those, each assessment is editable. You'll notice that when you pull up an assessment, and I'm going to show you this in just a second, notice that you can preview, you can edit, you can remove certain questions, you can change certain questions. We have additional quizzes and homework and tests, all sorts of different question types. Notice there on the left side of my screen, multiple choice, short answer, true and false, essay questions. So you can change the question type, you can use what we have available, and you can also create your own. You can scrap the whole thing and start over if you'd like, but lots of opportunity to customize the assessments for your students. Now, if you decide to use our online assessments, if you're creating and sharing those with students, you can actually have those graded for you. And that data, the reporting from that data, is dumped into our reporting system. There are performance analysis, item analysis, and various reports that you can choose to share. So any questions about assessment?
Very good.
So we're going to take just a few minutes and go online. If you're able to log in, I'd love you to do that. If not, you can just watch with me. I do want to show you what that looks like when we go online, where you can find all of these fun things that I've mentioned, and then we'll take a look at the assessments as well.
Kiki, we do have a few people that is having problems going into the access that you've shared, but I've already shared a different account at the bottom. So if you are having problems trying to log in, I did put in the alternative account that you can actually try.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Sometimes we get locked out of it if too many people are logging in, so I appreciate you have another option.
No problem.
Great. So I'll give everybody just a second if you'd like to log in, or you can just watch with me on the screen. I want to remind you that on the left side of the screen, there is a tab that says Dashboard. That is your home button. So if you want to click back to home and you want to get back to the original dashboard, you'll click the word Dashboard, and it will bring you back to your original screen where you'll find all of your ebooks. Those are there in the middle. Notice the inquiry journal, the research companion, The Explore magazine, your teaching materials are also here. But as you click into that resource, let me just open this student journal. We'll take a look at that. This is going to look exactly like the books that your students have in their hands. So if you'd like students to see on the screen what they're seeing in their hands, notice we can turn pages from the top of the screen there. And again, it looks exactly like what students will have. You can, of course, make that larger or smaller. And each of these resources offer opportunities for you to open them up and for students and teachers to see the PDF version of that resource. Now, I want you to notice on the right side of my screen, it says additional resources. When you have a chance, and if you're able to log in, you'll notice that there are some tips. There's that impact news. Here's that impact flexible pacing pathway. And I do want to show you this because this is going to be helpful if you don't have very much time on a particular day to focus on a social studies lesson. Notice that we've created, and let me scroll in to find this for you. Notice that we've given you opportunity to see the resources for a particular chapter. Let me blow this up just a little bit larger. And you'll see that each day there are minutes assigned to the resource. It tells me where to locate it in the student materials, where to locate it online, where to locate it in the teacher edition. And this is just one more way to make this a manageable program in terms of time. And this again is called the flexible pacing pathways. So let me show you where that is located. From the dashboard of your screen, on the right-hand side, each grade level will have flexible pacing pathways. So I encourage you to open these up, perhaps download those to your device, or you could even print them if you'd like. But this is going to be a helpful way to know how much time is associated with activities, where you'll locate those materials. And again, that is found on the front of your dashboard for each grade level.
Kiki, we do have
Yes.
a question from Bruce Kim. Plays and dramas are fun. Any other favorite collaborative activities?
Yes, we do have some collaborative activities, the plays, the dramas. There are also some songs. There are opportunities for students to engage in singing, also additional reading pieces. There is something called Cahoots. Are you all familiar with Cahoots?
Yes, that
Okay. Yeah, we have those as well, and you'll find these on the front of your screen. So there are some just fun little bits that you can put into the lessons. And let me show you a place to locate those resources. Remember I said that the Browse This Course is where you find all of those table of contents. So when you click into Browse This Course, and let's just go into a lesson. You'll find all of the materials available for that lesson here on this dashboard. So if we look at planning the impact, here's all the resources that we might see. Under each of these phases, you'll see the inquiry journal. Here's a lesson question. There are videos, talk about it opportunities, again, the songs and in some cases even dances. But there are all sorts of exciting resources that you can find. And those are going to be listed under each phase of the lesson. So as you go in, you'll click into these, we call these blades, and you'll click into each of those to locate the materials. So good question, Bruce. Absolutely. The students love that. Now, one other thing I want to add, you can add materials. Do you see here at the bottom of my screen, it says teacher added resources? You can actually open up and bring in your own materials. You can upload a resource. Maybe there's a video you want to show from YouTube, or maybe there's something on your computer that you want to share with students. And so you actually can add a web link and upload a resource as well. So lots of fun ways to engage our students. So back to the dashboard, I do want to show you where to locate the assessments. And this is always important to know where those are located. On the left-hand side of my screen, you'll notice that there is a bit of a menu, dashboard, course, gradebook, calendar. As you continue to scroll, at the bottom of these offerings, you'll see assessments. if you click the assessment tab, it brings you to our assessment library. Now you'll notice on my screen, I have 3 categories. My assessments, which means these are things that I've created. Copies received, which means these are things that teachers have shared with me in my building. And finally, the grade level that you're looking at, these are the Impact Social Studies assessments. So as you open that, you'll notice Chapter 1, Lesson 3, Chapter 1, Lesson 4, Chapter 2, Lesson 1. These are all the assessments that have been created for the program. Now, if you want to take a peek at those, you can just literally click on them. It opens right up to show you the questions that are originally here. You can edit, make changes, change the question type. You can print these assessments, and all of that is done from the right side of the screen. You'll notice the menu that says Options, and I can preview, I can edit. And this is where you can make changes to those questions. But this is also where you can actually print them. So here are the assessments I have available. Notice my menu of options allows me to preview, edit, assign, but if I click the print tab, it actually will print that assessment, giving me a chance to share that with my students in print. Now, if you create a new assessment or you modify or you change the assessments in any way, that's something that will be saved on your device within your assessments. And again, those are located under the assessment tab. Now, if you choose to have student access, if your students in your classroom are going to have digital access, they'll be located in a roster online. Now, you'll notice on my screen, I have 1 student in my class, and if I want to see what he's going to see, let me show you what it looks like to emulate a student. Your student dashboard is going to look similar to the teacher dashboard, but notice on my screen, the students have all of their materials available right up front. They can get into the inquiry journal, they can click into their research companion, the Explorer magazine, and if I had made an assignment to my student, it would be sitting here on this to-do tab. Maybe I want to share a video, or maybe I want to show an assessment. I can send that to each student, and that's going to be available here on their student dashboard. So this is what the students see. This is what their view looks like. Again, they have access to all of their materials digitally as well as in print. And then, of course, they have access to their assignments. All right. Now, I do want to share that we have professional development available to you online. There's a video library of all sorts of inquiry opportunities. You can watch videos from our authorship team about how to engage students, things you might do in class. And there's even a professional library of little courses, little classes that you can take to get to know a bit more about impact social studies. So I'm going to pause and give you guys a chance to think about what we've seen. Any questions, anything that I can help you with?
We do have a very quiet group of audience this morning.
Yeah, that's great. Or maybe everything's so clear that they're all happy with the program.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And
Uh,
if there are additional questions, Laura, after, please send them to me. I'm happy to answer those. Maybe everyone just needs a minute to be thinking about the program, and that's fine too.
yes, yes. We will be here all the time. So it's not just during the back to school period that you can reach out to us. Do reach out to us if you do have any questions at all. There is 2 sets of demo account, trial account access that you can actually see inside the chat. One is the one that Kiki is actually flashing right now. The other one is actually on the chat, which is something that is a bit more something that at least I can control, which is another one of the logins. So thank you so much. Oh, I see a few comments like this is very clear so far. So kudos to you, Kiki. It's really helpful. And again, this session is recorded. So if you do have anything that you want to revisit, or you feel that you want to share these recordings, it will be sent to you within a week or so. So just a quick reminder before we end the session, don't forget to check out the Back to School webpage for more of the upcoming webinar sessions, as well as the resources that you can access through there, and the blogs that we have. And I hope you have a good day. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it. Welcome. Enjoy your school year.